Probably the biggest trade that happened on draft day was when the Steelers moved up all the way to number 10 pick to draft Devin Bush. I actually really like this move a lot from Pittsburgh. They didn't give up the house to get him, and I think he's a really talented player. The fact of the matter is, with Devin Bush, he has almost no weaknesses. I mean, this is a fast linebacker who has great footwork, and that's really important in the NFL. He ended up being the second linebacker drafted after Devin White, but the fact of the matter is, you could definitely make an argument that he should have been the first guy. I mean, he was a really talented player. One thing I really like about him is his speed paired with his footwork. That's one of the things that makes him such a very talented player, and this play is going to be a very good example of that. Notre Dame's going to be running an RPO type concept, and so it's relatively pretty simple. If the edge rusher comes crashing into the middle of the screen, then basically what you're going to do is run the ball to the top half of the screen. However, if the edge rusher makes sure he stays to the outside and doesn't give up containment, then the quarterback is going to keep the ball and actually run to the bottom half of the screen. I know a lot of you guys probably are already aware of how that works, but hey, there's new viewers every day, so that's why I like to try to repeat things from time to time. But anyways, so as you see, the edge rusher doesn't fully commit, but he definitely goes closer to the bottom half of the screen than he does to the top half of the screen to make sure he doesn't give up containment. So that's why he's going to hand the ball off and let the running back run to the top half of the screen. So now that he's doing this, this now means that who's going to be the closest guy to try to make a play? It's going to be Devin Bush. But the problem is, Bush is pretty far away, and now he's going to have to try to catch up to a running back. Typically, running backs are pretty good at running. I mean, it's in their name for crying out loud. However, unfortunately for this running back, so is Devin Bush. He got there in a hurry, and he made a great tackle, and I think that play really goes to show what kind of a talent Devin Bush is. Like, one way he can be effective would be on a blitz. Like, if you take a look at this play, for example, that's where he is on the screen, and he is going to be blitzing to that direction. Michigan's also going to have another player blitz, and that player is actually going to go by completely untouched, so that's kind of why I'm bringing this up. Because Bush is actually going to have to take away that halfback right there, so typically you would think, okay, Bush takes away the halfback, and then the other guy blitzing can then go to the quarterback. So that's kind of the way this play could work. However, of course, Bush is still going to try to fight to see if he can get to the quarterback himself as well. Unlike a lot of players who kind of run to the outside and sort of let the halfback follow them out of the way, Bush is making sure that he's going to stay in this play, and he's running close to the halfback. Now that halfback is actually going to do something I definitely wouldn't recommend here, where he's basically trying to block Bush as if you would block an edge rusher if you're left tackle. He's going to try to get his left arm on Bush's right shoulder pad and his right arm on Bush's left pec and try to push him behind the quarterback essentially. However, I just don't recommend that. When you're a halfback and you're going up against a linebacker who's running full speed to try to get to the quarterback, I just think you have to make sure you get one block and just slow him down enough. It's not like you need your quarterback to have 5 seconds, you just need the quarterback to have enough time to make a play. And one of the big reasons why you shouldn't be doing this is because Bush is a very hard guy to push around. As you see, he gets by that block pretty easily and gets to the quarterback for half of a sack. With all of the Michigan players rushing free, I'm pretty sure he could have just rolled over and died and they still would have gotten a sack on that play. However, it still is a good example of showing how talented he is. One of the biggest knocks on him has been his block shedding, but as you see there, he definitely can still be effective in block shedding. Michigan did like to blitz a decent amount, and that meant that Bush had several instances where he was going to have favorable matchups trying to blitz. Like on this play, they only have 3 men on the line, so of course those 3 men are going to be rushing the passer, but they also have 2 other defenders, one of which being Bush, who are going to rush the passer as well on this play. So because of a 5-man blitz, well, what would this mean? This typically means there's going to be a lot of one-on-one matchups. And in fact, on the bottom half of the screen, this should mean that the center, left guard, and left tackle should all have one-on-one matchups against Michigan players. But what I want you to see here is take a look at how quickly Bush is going to get past his assigned man. I mean, it's almost like he's just running through a turnstile there. Really, when you're a center, it does take you a bit of time to get your shoulders up and to get in position to block. And so when Devin Bush is running past him, it's very easy for Bush to get past the center because the center just can't move laterally as well as other offensive linemen can. That's what kind of allowed Bush to get easily close to the quarterback. But unfortunately, the play doesn't end there from Michigan. There's something that I actually didn't really love here from Bush. His tackling form is definitely not going to be great on this, and while granted he does make the sack, it's still not exactly a perfect way to tackle someone. He kind of leaps up in the air. It looked like he was trying to get the ball out, when really he shouldn't have leaped up that high at all. You have to go low on a player like that. And I don't mean low as in like go to the knees, but you really want to hit someone around the waist as opposed to jumping up. Especially because if the quarterback had turned, for example, he could have leaped up into the quarterback's head, and then there you go, that's a 15-yard penalty. That is something I noticed a little bit from Bush. It's nothing major, it's nothing that you think would be a huge red flag, but it is something I noticed. Really, the fact of the matter is, that was kind of a nitpick, and I definitely think that Bush's footwork and speed does a lot more good than maybe some small things like that do bad. Like on this one, it's going to be a cover 1 hole, and the halfback is going to be running down to the bottom half of the screen. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because Devin Bush is in charge of covering that halfback. However, the problem here is Western Michigan is kind of running a rub route here, where there's going to be a lot of players who are going to end up getting in the way of Bush's path. As you see right now, there's a Western Michigan player who also then carries a Michigan player over who gets in that area right over there, meaning that Bush has to go around them. But what I find very interesting here is there's actually going to be another Michigan player who's going to be in a better position to try to make this play. Even though Bush is currently running to the bottom half of the screen, so he has a running start, that that player is further down to the bottom half of the screen, so he should be in better position to make this play. However, Bush is so fast, he's going to be the one who ends up running down to the bottom half of the screen and making this tackle. I mean, it really is video game-like acceleration, where he just starts running instantly. He can also easily shift his direction and move on a dime, and it really is impressive. I mean, the reality is, for the Steelers, they just haven't had someone that has replaced Ryan Shazier, and they haven't been the same team since he got injured. They need a linebacker who can make plays like this, and Bush can make them routinely. Although, really, it's not just his speed and his footwork that I like about him. He's also a high IQ player, which is something that I always love. Like in this play, it's actually going to be a blitz since it is 4th and 1. They are expecting some kind of a run, so they're going to have a linebacker blitz basically right over there. So because he's doing that, this now means that the other 2 linebackers in the area are basically going to each be in charge of covering those 2 zones right there. So that's where Devin Bush is, and that's key on this play because he's going to have to break down to the bottom half of the screen and then try to be ready for making a tackle closer to the right side of the screen. So when the play starts, he does shift over to the bottom half of the screen, but what's really impressive here is look at where he's looking. He's looking to the right side of the screen. He's watching the handoff, watching the quarterback, and more importantly, watching the offensive line. He's looking for a potential hole to open up, and there is clearly a hole right there that is open. So Bush isn't going to wait, he's going to just run over to where the hole is. That's what allows him to make a key tackle and keep the game 35-0. Okay, well, it wasn't exactly that key. I mean, the game was kind of a blowout, but the fact of the matter is, it goes to show how talented of a player he is. This next play is another good example of a good high IQ football play by Devin Bush. If you notice what's happening, it's going to be a cover 1 hole, and he's actually in charge of covering that zone right there in the middle of the screen. And for SMU, you're actually in a pretty good situation here because you do have a receiver running a slant route right there, right over to the middle of the screen. So on paper, what should you do in a play like this? Well, you should probably just hit that receiver as soon as he cuts, but before he gets to that zone of coverage in the middle of the screen. However, look what Bush is going to do here. First, he takes a couple steps to the bottom half of the screen, but really what I want you to take a look at is look at where he's looking. He's watching over, and he realizes that the quarterback is throwing it to that receiver right over there in the bottom half of the screen. Bush is aware this is something that could be happening, and that's why he's looking at the quarterback to see if it is something that's happening. And since it is, he's going to waste no time breaking down to the bottom half of the screen and trying to get into this play. That's just great awareness more than anything. That's just being able to keep your head up, notice what's going on, and being able to run over to try to make a play. If you're in zone coverage in the middle of the field, you do have to make sure you're keeping an eye on the quarterback constantly, and Bush did a very good job of that on this play. This next play is another one that jumped out at me. Once again, it's going to be man coverage, so right now he's going to be in charge of covering the halfback. He's in charge of going wherever the halfback goes. I'm not sure why I felt the need to let you guys know what covering the halfback meant. I'm pretty sure you guys are all pretty aware of what that means. I over-explain things sometimes, okay guys, give me a break. But anyways, he's in charge of covering the halfback who is running a flat route to the top half of the screen, and so once again, this is a pretty decent situation if you're going up against Michigan, you would think. I mean, more often than not, a running back is faster than a linebacker, so if you can flip it up to the halfback, you usually, in theory, can have your halfback win the foot race, turn the corner, and pick up some decent yards. However, look at how this foot race is going to go down. Bush definitely holds his own and nearly makes a tackle for a loss and ends up only giving up a couple of yards. The reason why he gave up those few yards at the end was because he kind of had to make a tougher tackle because he didn't make a perfect angle, which I think is something that you will get better at as you get older. It is the kind of mistake that definitely hurts you more in the NFL than it does in college, because in college it only cost him a couple of yards here, whereas in the NFL it could allow a guy to break a tackle and break off for a ton of yards. But it's still a minor mistake and not really why I'm showing this play. The reason I'm showing this play is to just show that speed and how quickly he gets up to his top speed as well. Also, I know I've now mentioned 2 plays where he didn't really make the best tackle, however, he is a good tackler. Those are just kind of weird instances I've shown there. And of course, as we all know, you'd rather a guy who's constantly getting into the play and making maybe not the best tackles than a guy who isn't even getting to the play, period. So he's definitely a great player, and that's definitely not what I'm trying to say with this video, is that he's a bad tackler. Going back to the foot race thing, I think this play is another good example, and honestly there's 100 of these I could show, but I like showing them, so that's why I'm going to show them. It's going to be a cover 1 hole, and Devin Bush is in charge of once again doing that crazy thing called covering the halfback. And so this now means that it's once again going to be a foot race, as the halfback is going to break up to the top half of the screen. Now, one key difference to note here is that unlike the last play where the play was starting on the hash marks on the bottom half of the screen and it was going to be a foot race to the top half of the screen, this time it's starting on the hash marks on the top half of the screen, but it's still going to the top half of the screen, meaning that the halfback is going to have way less room to operate here. So Bush knows this, and take a look at the better angle he takes this time. Right off the bat, he's going to run very high up to the top half of the screen and not even worry about going to the right side of the screen. This now means that when he goes over to make the tackle, he can tackle the guy straight on as opposed to having to tackle him off to the side. This now means that instead of giving up a few yards, he was able to tackle the player for a loss. It was an easier play for Bush for sure, but he also did a better job of taking that better angle. The reason I'm bringing both these plays up is because this is the same game, and not only that, but these 2 plays only happened a couple of minutes past each other. So if you're trying to draft a player, this is something that you actually love to see. It's a situation where a player realized what was going on and was able to sort of adjust and do better than he was doing in the previous play. He's willing to adapt and learn, even if it's something as minuscule as just a few yards. And again, it should be mentioned it was an easier play because it's at the hash marks on the top half of the screen instead of the hash marks on the bottom half of the screen, so it definitely is an easier play. But he also played that one just a little bit better, and that's what really impressed me. One more thing that I really like about Devin Bush is that because of his speed and footwork, it opens up more things. Like on this play, for example, what Michigan is going to do is have the edge rusher run straight there over to the top half of the screen, sort of. And so what's that going to do? Well, of course, it's going to force the right tackle to have to move in that direction. And then what they're also going to do is send an interior lineman basically over there to the right of the center. So this will do two things. Of course, it will cause the center to have to block him right there, but in theory, it can also pull the right guard over to the bottom half of the screen. So doing that could create a gap, which in theory could be very good news for Michigan because they're sending two men to run through that gap. Of course, this isn't a guarantee by any means, because if the right guard realizes what's going on, he could get over and block one of those Michigan players, and then the quarterback could try to just throw the ball away or hit somebody else. And also worth mentioning, Michigan State does have a halfback in the game, so in theory, if Michigan State reads everything perfectly, then they could still make a block on everybody here, but the chances of that are pretty slim. It's a good play call that I like a lot, however, that's not what I'm going to show here. Instead, what I'm showing here is Devin Bush. Basically, look at how quickly he's going to get to the quarterback. I mean, essentially instantly. He gets there so fast. You can blame Michigan State's halfback if you want to, because he didn't realize what was going on and pick up Bush on that play, but at the same time, Bush got there so quickly, it was so hard for the halfback to realize what was going on. That's kind of one of those situations where it's like, do you say it's a bad play by the halfback, or do you say it was a good play by the linebacker? And well, I'm showing good plays by Devin Bush, so I'm going to say it's a good play by the linebacker. If I were making a video about how halfbacks aren't the best at blocking, well, maybe then I would show that play and say, oh, bad job by the halfback. But, you know, it's really just a little bit of both. But honestly, that's still a good thing for Devin Bush. I mean, sometimes other teams are going to make mistakes. Other players are going to make mistakes. That's football. That happens. But you have to capitalize on those mistakes, and that's exactly what Bush was able to do. There's one more play I want to talk about, and this one will again be kind of one of those plays that you're like, why am I bringing this up until I actually explain it? So right off the bat, it's going to be a cover one hole. Bush is the guy in charge of covering the middle of the field. He's in zone on this play, and those are going to be the routes that Indiana's receivers are going to be running. And if you notice, there's a lot of routes running in between each other, a lot of routes running across the field. The reason for this is, of course, because they're hoping it's man coverage, and if it is man coverage, this could allow somebody to get decently open. And after the ball is snapped and once the play starts, that's going to end up being exactly what happens. If you take a look, I mean, that receiver is way open. So watch Bush here. Basically what's happening is that Michigan player is going to basically shout out, hey, Devin Bush, go make sure you cover that guy and make sure that you don't end up staying in the middle because I'm not going to be able to get to that guy. There are switching assignments, essentially. That's what he's saying. They have some sort of code word for switch assignments, and then Bush is going to run in that direction. However, the problem is there's another receiver right over there who's open as well, and I wouldn't even actually be surprised if both guys are calling for a switch on this play. That's kind of what made it a good play call by Indiana, but Bush is in a little bit of trouble here. So what is he going to do? Well, he's basically going to step in front of that first Indiana player and then run over to try to make sure he can make a play on the other Indiana player. This play ends up not working. I mean, the receiver gets open and they make the catch for a first down. That's not a good play. But the reason I like that play from Bush is because of all the difficulties he had to do trying to make that play. I mean, the reality is Michigan just has to do a better job of winning their one-on-one matchups. They lost too many one-on-one matchups on that play, and that's why Indiana was able to convert. He took away one of the Indiana receivers, and he came close to being able to take away the other Indiana receiver, and at the very least, he was still able to run over and make a play. It still went for 6 yards and a first down, but hey, that's a lot better than 30 yards and a first down. It was far from a perfect play. In reality, he should have just broken through the top half of the screen instantly, but again, if he does that, then the other receiver is open, so there is no winning for Bush on that play. White probably has the bigger upside as a whole, but Bush is really talented, and I think Bush will definitely break onto the scenes next year. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the Steelers are such a great drafting team. I would be very excited if I was Devin Bush and found out I was going to Pittsburgh, because that would probably mean that I'm great. And that is the way he thinks, well, then I think he's actually right.